I hope you got your shitting pants on.
Because you are about to shit your pants.
Hey everybody, welcome to The Big Picture. I am Michael Sargent. I'm your host. All right, I'm going to get right into it this week. And I kind of promised, well, not really promised, but said that I did not want to get political, anymore on the program. And I'm not really going to get political, but there is something that I'm going to talk about this week that I think is kind of it's a big deal. It really is a big deal, and it's a current news story, and I think I think that this is kind of, it's a little more important than, or basically it's bigger than just politics. We've got a lot going on in the world, and there's a lot of controversy, going on right now. But just so you know, this isn't a every time I get away from it they pull me back in moment.
Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
Yeah, it's nothing like that at all. Okay, I'm going to play a little something for you. And we're going to have a discussion today. Here we go.
If people say your dreams are crazy, if they laugh at what you think you can do, good. Stay that way. Because what non-believers fail to understand is that calling a dream crazy is not an insult. It's a compliment. Don't try to be the fastest runner in your school or the fastest in the world. Be the fastest ever. Don't picture yourself wearing OBJ's jersey. Picture OBJ wearing yours. Don't settle for homecoming queen or linebacker. Do both. Lose 120 pounds and become an Iron Man after beating a brain tumor. Don't believe you have to be like anybody to be somebody. If you're born a refugee, don't let it stop you from playing soccer for the national team at age 16. Don't become the best basketball player on the planet. Be bigger than basketball. Believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything. When they talk about the greatest team in the history of the sport, make sure it's your team. If you have only one hand, don't just watch football. Play it at the highest level. And if you're a girl from Compton, don't just become a tennis player. Become the greatest athlete ever. Yeah. That's more like it. So don't ask if your dreams are crazy. Ask if they're crazy enough.
Okay. Yeah, see, the deal is here. We're gonna talk about Colin Kaepernick. Now, in the past, I have, spoken out about his annex, and it's largely in part due to the fact that although I don't disagree with his protests, I disagree in the manner of which he chose to bring this to light. Okay? And first off, let me just say this. The kneeling during the national anthem while he was at work, and let's call it what it is, he was working. He is, or was a quarterback in the NFL. And anybody else in the world, with real jobs, we wouldn't get away with that type of protest at our jobs. Okay? Like everybody else, they're paid to do a job, and the annex, the outside things that take place in our lives that may interfere with our jobs. In this case, this is not something that really should have been taking place. Colin Kaepernick, I support you and your cause for social injustice. It is a problem. It is something that needs to be done. But you need to understand that protesting during the national anthem wasn't a good look, basically because the national anthem and patriotism is largely it's associated with the United States and the military and the sacrifices that so many people gave for this country. Just remember something. And I know your protests aren't necessarily about the military or protesting the military. That's understood. What's not understood is the reason why you chose to protest the national anthem or during the national anthem. And I'm hoping that you can understand why people would be so outraged or offended by your protests because of the manner in which they took place. Okay, first off, you were an NFL quarterback. You should be an NFL quarterback. You're talented enough. For God's sakes, man, you took the 49ers to the Super Bowl. You guys didn't win, but you gave it your all. You put it out there. And what I'm going to say about the whole topic at this point is basically it needs to be understood that, the national anthem and all this other stuff that takes place during that time is it is synonymous with the country. The veterans, the sacrifices these people made so you could protest. I think, Colin, whether you ever hear this or not, I don't know. I'm talking about it today because for quite some time I didn't quite understand what you were doing, what you were trying to get across, and now I kind of do. And although I may understand it, I'm not going to agree in the manner of which you did this. Okay? You talked about sacrificing everything, where your commercial talks about believing something, even if it means sacrificing everything. Well, that's okay. If that's how you chose to do this, there's nothing wrong with that. Okay? Other than the fact that, now you're not in the league anymore. Nike paid you, for doing this commercial. That keeps things going. But it's not necessarily it's not a good thing here. You should be in the NFL, you should be playing, and you should be pushing your agenda or your cause for social injustice. And in a sense you are, but the reality of it is it was a career killer. And I don't know if it was such a good decision. Okay, we'll talk more about this in a minute. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll get into more of this topic.
mama said, but Mike, don't you want to be comfortable? I said, no, I don't want to be comfortable. I want to be scared out of my head and lost out of my mind. I want to fall in and out of love a few thousand times. I want to spend all of my money on my friends and I want to ride around on a horse and give people hugs. And when I come into town, they'll say, oh, there's Mike. There's something wrong with that boy. I swear he just ain't right. 'Cause I won't waste another day living someone else's way. I want to be happy. I want to be free. Forget what they say. I'm doing me.
All right, everybody, welcome back to The Big Picture. If you're just tuning in, we're talking about Colin Kaepernick and the Nike commercial. All right. So let me give you my take here on this. Or let's review what we've already discussed. We've talked about, the disrespect that most of the country feels was given to veterans due to this commercial and Colin Kaepernick's protests. The fact that Colin Kaepernick is no longer in the NFL. And just, to bring this to light, Colin Kaepernick has a lawsuit against the NFL currently because he states that owners colluded to keep him out of the league. Whether it's true or false, which, if opinions matter here, I think that it probably is true. Let me just state this. The company that I work for, we have what they call a blacklist, which is basically ineligible for rehire. And when people pull certain stunts or they're terminated for reasons that, go against company policy, they are put on this blacklist and they're not eligible for rehire. So it probably can be said that the NFL being a entity, and it's a big entity and it's a powerful entity, more than likely there was collusion here. But does that make it wrong? I guess when you think about the fact that the NFL isn't like a real job, I mean, these athletes are paid huge money to play a sport, to do a job. And was Kaepernick doing his job? I guess you could say that he was when he was playing. He was a quarterback. He was throwing passes, handing the balls off, doing all sorts of things on the offensive side. But the annex, the protests, they're probably what's really being looked at here. When you think of the NFL, you think of America. This is America's sport. And I will say it once again, protesting during the national anthem was a bad decision. It's disrespectful to veterans, police officers, patriots, however you want to look at it. Now, let's talk about the commercial in itself for a second. The commercial, I feel, was in no way, shape, or form disrespectful. I thought it was very classy. I thought it was well laid out, well put together. And it sent a message. And I have no problem with the message. I thought it was a nice commercial. Okay. Now, Kaepernick got paid. Good for him. I think that's a great thing. But I would like to ask the question, okay, Nike, you guys make sporting goods. Let's just classify it that way. Their primary thing has always been shoes. But I want you to think about the bigger picture here. Okay. If Nike wanted to send the message, believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything, then, why couldn't they have looked at spokespeople, with Kaepernick included? But what about Pat Tillman? Why was Pat Tillman a bad choice? J.J. Watt, why wasn't he looked at? And the reason I'm asking these questions is Pat Tillman left the NFL to become a soldier, after 9/11. And there's been other players that have done that too. How come they're not looked at? I mean, they could have stayed at home, or, not at home, but they could have stayed in the NFL, made big money, and eventually retired from the league, millionaires. So I think that those guys made choices, and they did sacrifice, their lifestyle, to be a soldier, to fight the enemy, which, let's make no mistake about it, and I don't mean this in the derogatory manner, but the United States does have enemies, and we were attacked, by the Muslims, okay? And it's not all Muslims, but radicalized Muslims, and that's about all I'm going to really say on that topic. But at the end of the day, just understand something. This country has enemies, and there are soldiers and people that fight for our freedoms, and that has to be respected. That respect comes from the national anthem in many ways, and I just have a bit of an issue with Kaepernick and the way he's protested during that anthem, the national anthem. I think it's a bad look. But Nike itself, all right, great commercial, good message, and I know probably there's a lot of people that are saying, wow, what a turnaround. Mike has spoken out about Kaepernick. And understand this, my problem with Colin Kaepernick has always been the fact that you do not respect or disrespect the American flag or the soldiers or the veterans. They claim they're not doing that. All right. That's an opinion. And my opinion is protesting during the national anthem is disrespecting our veterans, our military people. All right? That's arguable, and it's my opinion. And those that are offended by my opinion, well, tough. Okay? It's life. Millennials need to suck this up. So here's what I'm going to do. I want to talk about Nike a little bit, right? Because there's some things that need to be brought to light here that I don't hear anybody really talking about it. Okay. Nike has been under scrutiny for quite some time because of they're manufactured. I believe it's in China, perhaps. Give me a second and I can look this up. And I can give you whatever details I find here. But Nike kind of, rubbed the National Football League the wrong way with what they did with Colin Kaepernick, because Colin Kaepernick is a black eye on the NFL, right? So, here's what I have on Nike. It's an American multinational corporation that is engaged in the design, development, manufacturing, and worldwide marketing and sales of footwear, apparel, equipment, accessories, and services. The company is headquartered in or near Beaverton, Oregon, in the Portland metropolitan area. It's the world's largest supplier of athletic shoes and apparel and a major manufacturer of sports equipment with revenue in excess of $24.1 billion. Okay, and that was the fiscal year 2012. It employs more than 44,000 people worldwide. In 2014, the brand alone was valued at $19 billion, making it the most valuable brand among sports businesses. As of 2017, the Nike brand is valued at $29.6 billion. Okay, so a little bit on Nike. Nike has been under scrutiny because of some of its manufacturing facilities are located in third world countries. And sneakers or apparel are produced under what most of us would consider slave labor. I read a story here recently where one of their employees had made, 20 cents for a day of labor, hard labor. It was basically about Nike sweatshops. And they've been criticized for contracting with factories, which are known as Nike sweatshops in countries such as China, Vietnam, Indonesia, and Mexico. Vietnam Labor Watch, an activist group, has documented that factories contracted by Nike have violated minimum wages and overtime laws in Vietnam as of, as late as 1996. Although Nike claims that the practice has been stopped, the company has been subjected to much critical coverage of the often poor working conditions and exploitation of cheap overseas labor employed in the free trade zones where their goods are typically manufactured. The sources from this criticism include Naomi Klein's book, No Logo, and Michael Moore documentaries. These campaigns have been taken up by many colleges and universities, especially anti-globalization groups, as well as several anti-sweatshop groups, such as the United States or United Students Against Sweatshops. As of 2011, Nike stated that 2/3 of its factories producing Converse products still do not meet the company's standards for worker treatment. A July 2011 Associated Press article stated that employees at the company plants in Indonesia reported constant abuse from supervisors. During the 90s, Nike had faced criticisms for the use of child labor in Cambodia and Pakistan. These were in factories that contracted to manufacture soccer balls. Although Nike took action to curb at least or reduce the practice, they continue to contract their production to companies that operate in areas where inadequate regulation and monitoring make it hard to ensure that child labor is not being used. In 2001, a BBC documentary uncovered occurrences of child labor and poor working conditions in a Cambodian factory used by Nike. The documentary focused on 6 girls who all work 7 days a week, often 16 hours a day. Then in 2014, there was a strike in a China factory. It wasn't a good thing. It said that the average salary at Yen is 3,000 yuan, I guess, per month. The factory employs 70,000 people. The practice was in place for nearly 20 years. Okay. And we go back to our main story here. In September 2018, Nike announced it had signed former American football quarterback Colin Kaepernick, noted for his controversial decision to kneel during the playing of the U.S. national anthem to a long-term advertising campaign. According to Charles Robinson of Yahoo Sports, Kapernick and Nike agreed to a new contract despite the fact that Kapernick has been with the company since 2011 and said that the interest from other shoe companies played a part in the new agreement. Robinson said that the contract is a wide endorsement where Kaepernick will have his own branded line including shoes, shirts, jerseys, and more. All right, so enough on that. So see, I want people to understand the connection here because Nike, although is behind Kaepernick, they've paid him, they've endorsed him, for his social oppression. Nike has a long-standing history of unfairness and social injustice and oppression. So, their marketing strategy has always been to promote its sponsorship agreements with celebrity athletes, professional teams, and college athletic teams. Well, I gotta come right out and say this. There are athletes now that don't necessarily support Nike, and they are basically, one player, for instance, is Michael Jordan. And Michael Jordan, basically, he's better known as MJ. I mean, he was the greatest basketball player ever. He's the greatest of all time. He's the GOAT. I know the millennial generation thinks that it's LeBron James and how great he is, but look at the rings on the fingers and watch Michael Jordan play and tell me that LeBron would have ever stood a chance against a guy like Mike. Mike would have ate him alive. But that's not our point here. Our point here is in 1987, Jordan, he really helped drive Nike sales. Okay. He was huge. Air Jordans still in production, and I think that that's coming to a stop because of this latest thing here with Kaepernick. So, like I said, a lot of controversy here. So, we're going to take another little break, and I'm going to share an experience that recently took place, with me, and me calling out some people for their behavior and their actions. And it always proves to be one thing. With all this controversy going on and people not knowing the full story or understanding what's going on here, people really show their ignorance, and a lot of times they don't know what they're getting behind. So let's take a little break and see if we have time to lay out this last take or this experience.
Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got time for that.
All right, so let me disclose a little information to you people.
You people!
All right, and I appreciate you being here listening to the program. Let me explain a little something that took place this week, because it's kind of interesting, and my reaction to some of this whole thing with Nike and Colin Kaepernick, it was kind of incredible. All right, and it really kind of shows what people are thinking. And let me just say this right out. This show is going to run over a little bit today. And, of course, it's played on multi-platforms. The show is basically heard first and foremost on all Western New York news and radio. That's where the podcast originated, and I will continuously do the show for that platform. But now the show is being heard all across the internet, Google Podcasts, Anchor FM. There's a multitude of platforms this show has been picked up by, which is a good thing. And we are still, entertaining the idea of sponsorships and guests and phone calls and all that other stuff to try to elevate this program. But I will disclose right off the bat that I, don't work in photography full time. Okay. And just so everybody knows this, I'm not making this show a political show. I'm talking about this whole issue with Colin Kaepernick and Nike because of the really great photography and the video that was captured, for this. So if anybody has that, question, why I'm talking about this and not strictly photography, all I'm going to say is, well, it's my show, and I can talk about what I want on it. That's the beauty of doing my own podcast. And honestly, it's kind of a dumb question.
What kind of stupid-ass question is that?
All right. And maybe you like the show, maybe you don't like the show. But it's something that I do, and whether you love it or hate it, it doesn't matter, because there's people that are listening to it, and there's people that like it, and then there's people that don't, but they listen because they want to hear what I'm going to say next.
Oh, even Steak would say that stinks.
So, let me tell you about what happened this week. All right. Nike releases this commercial with Kaepernick. And a couple of the Soul Brothers, and I don't mean that in a racist way, because I'm not a racist individual. I have a lot of friends, that I consider family that are non-white. Okay. One of these guys came into work the other day, wearing a bunch of Nike apparel, and all the people that he works with were, really coaching him on, like, he had really done something great here with all the Nike apparel. And I'm not saying, call for a ban on Nike. I don't think that Nike went too far with what they did with Colin Kaepernick. I respect it. I really do. But as I sat here and watched these people carry on, I had to ask the question. So, what are you guys doing here? What's this all about? Oh, Kaepernick's my boy, man. And, I'm listening to all this, jive-ass bullshit fly around the room. And, it got me thinking. So I asked, I says, gentlemen, what are you doing here? What's this all about? And, of course, I get the Kaepernick is my boy, and, respect the hell out of what he did. And I'm thinking, really? So tell me about what he did. And you'd be surprised at just how dumb, people are. I was just amazed, at their answers and the things that they were saying. It's just like, holy crap. This here is just, you people are really not too bright. Not bright at all. All right, first off, let's get two things straight. Kapernick is protesting social injustice. Okay? And let's be clear what social injustice is. It's oppression. Okay? People being kept down, like, for example, Nike paying a Cambodian worker 20 cents for a 16-hour shift. Okay? That's what oppression is. You stupid asses that wanted to dance around and, really carry on about this and talk about Antifa and, all this, anti-Trump stuff. Okay? You people don't even know what you're talking about, and that's what's sad and scary, because Colin Kaepernick is referring to, for example, the police. The police have made some bad calls here with dealing with criminals or misinterpreting criminal activity, and there's been a lot of support for criminals, whether they were right or wrong, and it's not right to call them criminals. All right, some of them. His name slips my mind, but I'm sure everybody will understand the story. I believe it was Michael Brown who beat up and robbed a convenience store and took a shot at a police officer with an illegal handgun. All right, and note I had said illegal handgun. It wasn't legal, it wasn't permitted, it wasn't registered to the guy, it was an illegal handgun. He had it with the intent to, and which he did, commit a crime. So he was shot. And of course you see, and you never know what's fake news anymore. Things get out there, and my son, a mother has to worry about her son being shot and killed by the police when he robs a store. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But I can tell you this. Trayvon Martin, the young man that was killed, that, Obama had made comments about, that whole thing is disturbing, and I can't comment on it too much because the story is a little older now and I don't remember all the details that were actually reported on the news. But it was felt that he was not in the wrong and he shouldn't have been shot, which maybe he shouldn't have been. I don't know. But there's a lot of stories out there with police brutality, and I'm going to be honest with you. I have seen myself, police officers, cross lines a little bit, and not be too decent to people. I mean, you have to have some compassion here, but in a police officer's job, with the stress that some of them face, it's very hard to find compassion or empathy for people when your life or stress levels are so high that your reactions may be a little too aggressive. Okay, that's not saying that I do not support law enforcement or police officers. I do. I could not. I can't support the Black Lives Matter and all this other crap. You break the law. If you're a criminal and you're breaking the law and you're being pursued by a police officer, what's going to happen is based on your reaction and how you handle the situation. But let's get back to these jokers in the guard shack. They're talking all this crap, and they really have no idea what this is all about in the first place. First off, when I started saying something, one of them gave me a look like he wanted to kick my ass. And my thing, is I'm a pretty good-sized guy, and, I'm not the same guy I used to be in high school. I am kind of scrappy, and I'm not afraid to swap punches with anybody. Well, I don't think I'd want to go against Mike Tyson, but honestly, I can handle my own. And that's the thing. These people know that, and that's where the civility will come into play, because if somebody were to take a swing at me, you can sure as hell bet your ass that I'm not going to stand there and just take it. But that's all irrelevant, yeah, sure, tough guy. What I want to say is these people are showing support for something that they don't even understand. And that's what's disturbing to me. Because first and foremost, Black Lives Matter, Antifa, all this crap. Let's call it what it is. All right? It's protesting the President of the United States and the policies that he's put in place, and the realistic thing with what Donald Trump has done as president. He's trying to fix the economy. He's trying to bring jobs back to this country so people can go to work. Donald Trump was never considered a racist until the Democrats said that he was one. There are photographs that date back years and years and years of Donald Trump with very prominent, black people. He's given a lot of money, time, resources to help blacks, and that's documented fact. So those people who feel that Donald Trump is not doing a good job as president, that's on you guys, because you guys don't understand the real issues that are plaguing this country. And I'm sorry, Barack Obama did more to hurt race relations than any other president in history, as far as I'm concerned. All right, I think it's terrible that people don't understand this, and it's not political. But here's the thing with these people in the guard shack, okay? And and let me state it, it's not just black people. It's white people too. They're supporting Colin Kaepernick, and they have no idea, no reason why. First off, let me tell you guys something. Colin Kaepernick would not even associate himself with you guys. You want to know why? Because here's the difference between a guy like Colin Kaepernick and you guys. Let me get a cup of coffee, or let me get a sip here, because I need to lay this out. Yeah, that's some good stuff. Okay. So, Colin Kaepernick. This guy did the right things when he was a young man. He made choices in his life. Went to college. Played college ball. Drafted in the NFL. Played for the San Francisco 49ers. Made it to the Super Bowl. It's a shame he's not in the league. Those are my takes on Colin Kaepernick. We all know, and I've discussed it earlier in the program, my problems, not really my problems, but how I feel about Colin Kaepernick and what he did, how he protested. Colin Kaepernick worked. He worked very hard. He made choices in his life because obviously he had a good idea of what he wanted to do with his life. So with that being said, I call these idiots out in the guard shack, and I'm being harder on them because of the behavior that they displayed. All right, you guys, I'm just going to say it right now. You guys are losers, just absolute losers. So here's the difference, fellas. I just laid out what Colin Kaepernick did with his life. And you guys didn't like it too much when I said to you, well, guys, let's look at a few things. You guys are here working in this environment, and let's understand why. So I asked him, what kind of student were you in high school? Were you a punk? Did you get good grades? Did you work hard at anything? Did you play, high school football? The answers varied from yes, no, well, a little bit. Okay. Well, here's what I keep saying regarding this entire topic. People make choices in life. And it's not black people, it's not Chinese people, it's not whites, it's none of that. Okay? It's individual people make choices in life. You can choose to be the party boy in high school, not work hard at getting good grades, or not go out for any sports, or not crack a book. Just get through it. Get your way through it. I've heard a million young people say over the years, I can't wait to get out of high school and get life started. Well, okay, but do you understand why you do certain things in school? Why you learn, why you educate yourself? Why you'd want to, pull these grades in school and get out of high school and go on to college to further your education? There is so many mixed signals that are sent to the youth of America nowadays that it's kind of foolish for us to sit there and compare apples to apples here. Colin Kaepernick worked very hard to achieve a goal, and he gave up everything for something he believed in. Do I think he did that intentionally? No, I do not. I think that this is just how fate laid out for the guy. But these people that, I had the conversation, or not, it wasn't even a disagreement. It was just kind of laying out some facts. But I said, your life choices, the things that you've done in your life, is the root cause of why you're in the position that you're in today. You made these choices. You decided not to work hard in school. You decided not to pull good grades. You decided to be basically a fuck off. And that's what you've done your whole life. Now, they talk about white privilege. Can anybody explain to me, and I think there may be some storylines to this white privilege that they talk about. But why is it a guy like Bo Jackson or Marcus Allen or Deion Sanders, Dak Prescott, Allen West, I can go on with a long list of people that worked very hard for their lives to achieve their goals. And that's what it comes down to. These people didn't do anything with their lives. They didn't work for anything. They just get through school, and you can tell that they're not very educated, and although they'll think they are, and they'll become offended if you tell them they're idiots. The bottom line is, you guys are idiots. You're not educated. I have a very, I consider him, my brother, black gentleman who is highly educated. He knows history. And me and him have had several discussions on the topic of racism and all this other stuff. And, he doesn't look at it the way I look at it, but he knows the facts. He knows the facts about oppression. He knows about slavery. He knows how all this stuff took place, and this is what bothers me. In today's world, we don't have slaves. Blacks aren't slaves. Okay? Nobody alive today owns slaves. I don't know what to tell you about ghettos and inner city problems. I do know that part of Donald Trump's plan was to change these inner city schools and make them better facilities so people can be educated better, learn better. Okay? Try to clean up the streets, reduce the crime and allow people the opportunity to go to school, to educate themselves, to go on to college and become something more than, a minimum wage employee. All right, and that's the thing. Minimum wage employees right now they're having their wages increased to a new minimum wage, largely in part because, they feel they're entitled to it. Okay, well, there's jobs that pay well, and then there's jobs that don't pay so well, and a lot of it is based on the work. If you want to talk about oppression, guys, you want to talk about being screwed over or, subdued, maybe you ought to look at yourselves and think, wow, I'm in this position because of the life choices I made, not because anybody held me down. And no, you're not entitled to a $100,000 a year job. You go out and work for that. That's what amazes me. Did I live up to my potential as a human being? No, I did not. I was a fuck off in school. And I guess you could say maybe I got lucky. But I wouldn't call it so much luck. I just knew that I didn't want to be a bottom feeder, somebody who just gets by in life. I didn't want to drive a taxi cab. There was more to life. And I wanted more. And I went out and got it. And I worked hard for it. I'm no better than any of these guys. But what's funny to me is I see more black on black crime than I do white on black crime. And that to me, it's sad. It's very sad. And this is where this whole race thing comes into play. I said earlier that this guy that came in with all the Nike apparel and talking about Kapernick, how he gave me a look that really could burn through lead. He wanted to just, gut me like a fish. And I'm sitting there thinking, try me, bitch. Because that will be a very poor life decision. Yeah, here I go. Tough guy again. It's not like that at all. But, when I realized that this guy was looking at me like, you dumb white cracker or whatever the hell they say, I'm thinking, I'm the dummy. And that's when I kind of laid it out and said that, all right, there's not going to be any, explaining anything to you people. And I don't mean you people in a racist way. I mean you people that are in this room at this time carrying on and acting like this. I just thought, Jesus, what? Jesus Christ.
Jesus H. Christ.
It was incredible to me to just be in that room with people that don't know facts, that have made very poor life decisions and are in the positions they are in life because of those decisions that they've made. And I've talked about this, I'm going on and on about this. And I guess what I'm saying is, I want to know what people think. Am I wrong here? I don't think I am. Because meanwhile, while they do nothing to improve the quality of their life, they don't work for anything. They don't try to educate themselves on any topics. I always do. I continue to try to improve my skill set or learn things that I know nothing about. And it pays off for me because one thing I've learned is the more you know, the more you can do for an employer, the more valuable you become. And just like a quarterback, an NFL quarterback, you go in there under a rookie contract and you're making great money, but you're not getting paid. Okay? You're not getting paid yet. And this is what, always happens. You come into the league, and I'm sure Colin Kaepernick will agree with this. If you come into the league and you play very well, you dominate, okay, you're going to earn yourself a huge contract. Isn't that right, Tom Brady? Isn't that right, Aaron Rodgers? Colin, What happened to you? You took your team to the Super Bowl and almost won. You know, you guys were there. You were on the big stage. You lost. All right? You stayed in the league a couple more years after. But all this protesting and all this other stuff, yeah, that's probably what got you kicked out of the league. I think that's a shame. I think Colin Kaepernick still has some talent. Too bad he didn't have the talent around him. If he would have, he'd still be in the league despite his protests. If he would have gotten to a Super Bowl, he'd be in the league. You know, let's say if he would have won a Super Bowl, he would still be in the league. Unfortunately, it didn't happen that way. I would like to see him back in the league. I think it would be great. And I think it would be kind of like the ultimate proof that, you know, the NFL is tolerant, is willing to, you know, create programs or help promote awareness about social injustice. I don't think that that's a wrong topic. I think it's kind of a noble cause, because I'm going to tell you, you know, as a guy that considers himself somewhat successful in life, I understand what oppression is. I was oppressed. There's a pretty deep story here about everything that took place in my life. And, you know, I can say that at one point in my life I was kind of oppressed. Not anymore. I made the life choices. I changed things for myself. Unlike, you know, this band of people that I had to have a conversation with the other day. I feel sorry for you guys, because you don't understand the real topic here. You don't understand what Colin Kaepernick is talking about. He's not talking about, and I'll explain it just to be clear. He's not talking about people and their life choices. He's talking about social injustice, oppression. Okay? It does exist. But there's so many that get on that bandwagon because they make bad life choices and feel that they are entitled to good things in life. Listen, nobody is entitled to anything. If you want it, you need to get off your ass and work for it. And what's amazing is one of these guys actually has shown initiative, worked hard to advance himself. And I give him credit for that. But one of the problems here is he doesn't realize this. He doesn't realize that he's taken initiative. He's learned more than you know, his coworkers. He doesn't see that. Hopefully, you know, the light switch will click on and he'll understand that at one point. And I think that's what happens. It's like anything in life, people. If you want to go somewhere with life, you need to work very hard for it. That's the bottom line at the end of the day. All right, guys. I can't believe that this show has run over, you know, which on my platform at All Western New York Radio, my show is normally 30 minutes. Well, I'm above 30 minutes. And if they decide to cut the show short, you know, at All Western New York Radio, you can listen to the program on Google Podcasts or Anchor FM. All right. This is about all I've got for this week. And people, if you want to send an email or comment on anything you heard here today, please do. Maybe if your take is strong enough, we'll have you on the show and we can discuss this further. There were several things I wanted to talk about with photography this week, but I'm not going to get to it. So we'll hit on that next week, okay? Until next week, This is Mike Sargent. You're listening to The Big Picture, and thanks for being here. I'm out.
Like the turn of the whip, I snap attack, front to back, in this thing called rap. Singing like a shovel, rhyme double on a heavenly level. Bang the bass, turn up the treble. Radical mind, day and night, all the time. 714, wise, divine, maniac, radiac, winning the game. I'm the lyrical Jesse James. Quality, I possess, some say I'm fresh, where my voice goes through the mesh of the microphone that I am holding. Copywritten lyrics so they can't be stolen if they are not. Don't need the police to try to say them, your voice will sing. So please, stay off my back, or I will attack, and you don't want that.
I've got the power, you sexy motherfucker.